Welcome everyone to early August 1914 and the start of our To End All Wars series, the very first episode where we actually do something. This is the Great PBM War, as XTRG called it, and I'm probably going to steal that because I think it's very clever. So let me put the nations on here. We see that I have control over Great Britain and France. I'm playing as the Western Entente. The Central Powers will be played by our resident expert, XTRG. So that's Germany and Austria-Hungary. And THG, the historical gamer, will be playing as the Eastern Entente. So it's mainly Russia, but it includes Serbia. Can be other countries if we get them involved. I'm pretty sure the Western Entente takes over Italy, but, well, we can cross those bridges when we get to them. So to start off, I want to say that I'm going to make a few meta comments. Just stuff about the series and not about the game itself, not about how we're going to lead our armies. So if you want, you probably should just jump forward in the video about 5 minutes, and that should be enough to get you into the gameplay. So to start with those, I just want to start off by saying I want to kind of identify the different personalities that are in the series. As I already mentioned, XTRG really knows the game well. He is our expert, so much so that we even THG and I were given a small advantage of being able to pick our war plan to go to war with, whereas XTRG, we locked him into the historical option. I mean, we didn't go so far as to make him choose like a really possibly disadvantageous war plan and then try to like min-max the most optimal game plan to counter that. We just gave him the historical, and we did from there try to pick plans that we thought would be effective. And the good thing for Germany, I think, and we'll find out this very soon because Russia picked a pretty aggressive war plan against this. I think that the default options for the Central Powers are not so extreme that the Central Powers are that susceptible to an extreme plan to counter it. You know, it's conservative enough. Even though the Schlieffen plan is obviously pretty aggressive, it leaves very little on the Russian front. The whole idea of the Schlieffen plan was to take over Paris, conquer the French, in order to finally rally and then take all your manpower off this front and move it against the Russians. However, the Russians are just so ill-equipped to fight in the very beginning, and they do have the Austro-Hungarians to deal with. So I think that the Germans can get away with their only 2 armies in the east, and we'll see how it goes because, as I said, THG has picked a pretty aggressive war plan to try to force Germany to redeploy some of their forces to the Eastern Front. Now, if you want to watch XTRG, you will have to deal with his bloody hells and his interesting, his very deep voice. He doesn't tutorialize his comments very much, which is, I think, the only thing negative I could say about his gameplay, because I have watched one of his series, 2 or 3 episodes of one of his series at least, trying to garner something, and I have to say that you have to have a base level of knowledge to be able to appreciate his gameplay. I mean, if you're interested in learning the game yourself. If you're just interested in seeing what he does and kind of like, okay, he's pushing forward here, and you don't need to know how to do it yourself, by all means, you can watch him, and he'll probably talk a lot about his strategy. He's obviously he's developed this knack for telling his strategy. He'll explain that, and that's all can be very interesting. Historical gamer, probably the most entertaining of the 3 of us, just at face value. He's extremely well spoken and eloquent, and master of history. XTRG really is as well. Both these guys know history better than I do, but I think the historical gamer, he just has more of that like radio voice. So if you're just listening for entertainment or watching for entertainment, I think the historical gamer, you really ought to check out his series. Now, left is Tortuga Power me. I don't really want to incentivize people to watch my series because, you're already here, so you have some interest. But I am kind of in this weird zone where normally I know the game very well, but I don't in this particular instance. So I can't say that I'm going to be able to tutorialize very well. I can just say that I will try to tutorialize based on everything I know. And if you're an absolute beginner to the game, To End All Wars, and you're interested in learning something, then there might be some value for there. Of course, there'll be some value if you're just interested in seeing what the French plans are, but I can't give you expert reasons or rationales for why I'm doing, method A versus method B, because unfortunately I'm still lacking that myself. I've read the manual from start to finish. It's been a couple months now, probably actually like 5 months or so. So I'm sure I've forgotten some things. And on top of that, I was able to get some help from Von Moltke. That's his tag in my Discord. And also I think, Von Moltke, if you watch this, just go ahead and leave a comment. Maybe I'll pin it so that people can pay a tribute to the great advisor. I also want to thank the Florida Gamer who was helping me for a while. If he's watching this, thank you to you as well, because he was the one who kind of helped me first learn the ropes of Town Wars back 6 months ago or so when I did my first stream of it. Okay, now all that meta stuff out of the way. One other thing. Okay, sorry. Actually, one other big point, and that is about comments. Because I am a beginner, I'm going to be very susceptible to false comments. I don't know how to say it. Like incorrect advice. So if you believe that I should have taken my forces south and smashed them through Alsace-Lorraine, that's completely fine, and leave that in a comment, because I'll respond to that. I'll be like, okay, well, I don't think that was a good idea for this reason. And you can be like, well, did you take this into consideration? I think if there's one thing that I am known for people who are familiar with my channel, it's just I do respond to every comment, and I try to take everything very seriously. I mean, my whole idea is to treat people how I would want to be treated on other people's channel, and how most people get excited when the person who's making content responds to them. In that same way, I like to respond to people. So feel free to leave those comments. But the big thing is, on a series like Rule the Waves, or a series like even Aurora 4X to a lesser degree, things like Advanced Tactics Gold, the games which I know really well, I don't mind if people give advice which is just really more an expression of preference rather than like a gameplay optimal thing to do, because I can discern between those two things. However, in this situation, I don't know To End All Wars well enough to be able to determine if you're saying something which is based on gameplay fact or just your own intuition, or hey, this is what I would do in that situation. So I really need to stress that people should make this distinguishing qualifier in their comments. If you're saying, hey, you should have moved from Maubeuge into Charleroi, okay, these names will be the death of me. But if you're saying that, please make sure that you either just leave that as your opinion, or like your own, this is my advice, what I would have done, or say specifically, I would have done this because there is a gameplay mechanic where if you cross the river at this angle going from southwest to northeast, you get a 20% bonus to your attack. I'm obviously making this up, but you get the point. There's a big difference. I wouldn't know that, and there's a big difference between you just saying, hey, I would have done things differently. I can't really say yours is wrong, like, factually, but I would still say it's wrong because it's not the way I would have done things. There's just a big difference between that and, oh, what you did is purely suboptimal because you combined only 2 infantry divisions and 1 artillery division, and it should have been 2 infantry and 2 artillery, which, by the way, we do have to do somewhere in here. One of these armies has... Is this it? No, it's one of these, though, I think, has only... I mean, this is something I learned, by the way. I learned that you should always group corps with... This is it. With 2 infantry and 2 artillery. We see we only have 2 and 1 here, so I'm going to go to my main army. Either of these guys will do. Really, I actually would rather take out of Dubé's, because I think he's less of a good... not as good of a leader. And that was, what, the 26th? Yeah, it's the 26th. So we'll move this to the 26th. And we will unassign this corps, or split the unit. Now, holding control, I'll select them all again. And I'm going to include those 2 artillery. I'm going to make this a corps once again by combining these units. That's under this guy saluting. Hope that's not too loud. I didn't really adjust for the game sound before I did this. But now we see this guy's 185 because he only has... I mean, it'd be 200, I think, is for the groups that had at least 1 medium artillery. We can see there that this one has 1 medium, 1 light. So French artillery, from what I know... Okay, so now we're into the gameplay already. Good. This is like kind of... I'm showing that I've learned a little bit, but don't misconstrue me for an expert. I'm not an expert, so I'll be making mistakes. And if you're wondering if I'm making a mistake or not, because you have read something and I'm doing something confidently, just ask me, hey, are you sure that that's the right way of doing that? Okay, now into how I'm going to conduct this turn. Okay, so finally let's dive into the actual turn plan for turn 1. I only have 2 armies which are active, and those are both here in Longwy, right next to Montmedy. So I'm going to advance, and neither of them, thankfully, thank the gods, the RNG has favored us. I'm not sure, this might actually be how it happens every single time, but none of my leaders passed their role to be active or not, except for Foch. Thankfully, Foch has passed his, but it's almost a bad thing because if he goes by himself, he will arrive much faster because you do take a movement penalty if you're not activated. But I want to attack in and I want to put some pressure on the rail lines. So we're going to move into Luxembourg. We're going to try to push up to Trier, Rhineland. If we can get to Cologne, this is like really the holy grail of our advance. If I was to prognosticate whether we'll get there, I would say the chances are extremely slim. If we can just hold back the German forces at all, it will be a win. And the great news for us is at least we have, these armies will be active faster than if we had chosen the historical war plan. Which reminds me, by the way, just as a refresher for those who didn't really watch the first episode, or for those who watched it but already have forgotten, Germany is doing the Schlieffen plan and the Conrad plan. I mean, Germany is doing the Schlieffen plan, Austria-Hungary is doing the Conrad plan. These are the historical options. The Schlieffen plan probably needs no introduction, but the Conrad plan just means that they're focusing against Russia first. And I was surprised by this. I thought that the default option was Austria, maybe because they did it so poorly. I thought they focused on Serbia first. But it says that Austrian leaders in Russian territory will be active and gain cohesion. So it's obviously a benefit for Austria-Hungary invading into Russia. That's also kind of terrible for them. I mean, honestly, when Historical Gamer and I were debating between the options, I think it would be terrible if he attacked, because the Austro-Hungarian forces, if they're in these mountains, will be a pain. But if they actually come out onto the Russian plains, I think THG can deal with them well. Now, I guess we'll start with, speaking of the Historical Gamer, he did the Berlin plan, which is a very aggressive plan to move in on Berlin. Well, as the plan's namesake implies, it's basically just a real strong attack into Germany. It doesn't focus on Austria-Hungary. I don't know what's the right thing to do. Like, I was hoping that this would draw some German forces back, so this is why I pushed for it. And I'm attacking through and trying to cut off the Germans here, so really it's an extremely aggressive plan, and I just have no idea. We have no idea if it'll work or not. XTRG knows this plan, so it'll be really interesting to see if he just goes full on for Schlieffen, or if he does retreat back and try to take things a little slower, a little more cautiously. So that's THG's, and I am doing Plan 19, which, as I've kind of alluded to, is this attack through the Ardennes, and it's supposed to cut off the Schlieffen plan, essentially. So I've chosen it because it does somewhat counter the Schlieffen plan. I think it best counters the Schlieffen plan. It does come at a very terrible cost for engagement points, I think. It's only, I mean, if we look, I lose, I only get 4 engagement points versus I think I get 8 or 10 or I don't know, some amount more than 4 if I choose the historical option. But I don't feel like pushing into the mountainous fort area of Alsace-Lorraine is a good idea. Historically, it wasn't. So we're going to just put pressure on XTRG and see. He's normally extremely hyper-aggressive, so sometimes the only way you can contain an aggressive player is by being aggressive yourself. So with that said, I am not going to be that aggressive at all, because none of my leaders are active, and I don't want to be stupid about it. So what I'm going to do is, technically what I would normally do, I should say, is I'd put on Synchronized Movement in this leftmost option, and then I would just move Castelnau to Luxembourg. Unfortunately, what this does, you'll see why unfortunately in a second, it moves every corps. So as I understand it, I don't know why this is, but corps don't have an associated army with them in the hierarchy in To End All Wars. As far as I know, any corps that's in the same province of an army is considered immediately part of that army. So having two armies in the same territory is just really bad mechanics. It's really bad for the gameplay mechanics of To End All Wars. So we want to immediately separate these two, but as you can see, the second army, the Deuxième, I can't remember, even Von Moltke was telling me how to say these things, but Deuxième army, it took every corps with it. Now I do want Foch, where's Foch? Foch, there you are. I do want Foch to go, and notice that he gets there in, well, we can't see, but 6 days, versus everyone else getting there in I think 13 days. What is your, yeah, 13 days. So this is a disadvantage. I would put, nobody can go on aggressive offensive posture because they're not activated, which is just bad luck. But except for Foch. But Foch can, if he goes on, he'll engage a force which is twice his superior. And it'll take 7 days for the rest of the forces to arrive. By that time, Foch's army could be wiped out. I don't want to lose before we begin, basically, so we're going to be a little conservative and just leave him on defensive posture. Excuse me. And hopefully he doesn't get himself killed. Okay, so now who else? We just, I don't even remember which of these armies exactly. I already have a turn like planned out. And I don't remember which ones I decide not to take with me. We'll just start, delaying some of the corps, maybe the lower ones. 8, 7. So let's leave 4 corps behind. No, it's supposed to be 5, but this one's not going to be activated. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 corps with. Great. Actually, this reserve one I probably don't want to move, but I might fix this up off camera to be whichever the armies I want to actually move there. So that is done. With the first army, I want to move it to block Montmedy. Just in case these scouts, I think that some of these might be cavalry. They might try to move through. So I'm not going to have synchronized movement. I don't have it. Good. Let's move over here. And I'm just going to move a few corps because we're going to keep a few in Longwy just in case the Germans decide to move in there. I doubt they will. But just in case. So who will we move? Probably the 9th. Montmedy. 12 days for these guys, I guess. 13 for you, 12 for the other one. So we'll move a few into Montmedy and we'll secure it in this manner. And actually, I think we have a corps in here which is activated, and he will also move to Montmedy. Although probably he's better off to the eastern side now that I think about it, since we already have the army moving there. So maybe I'll move him over to Maubeuge instead. Albert is going to destroy the rail here, and he's also going to go to retreat if engaged, because I do want to keep him alive if possible. These other forces will activate in 1 turn, which we can see here, fixed in the region for 1 turn, and that's the case with almost everyone who's locked on the front. They'll be stuck there for at least 1 turn. So we kind of have to play according to the plan for at least 1 turn before everything goes off the rails. Great, so this is already a good start, and most of my forces beyond this are actually locked. So I don't even have to really do a lot in the first turn, which is nice. Although I have to say it took me a long time even to figure out this plan. I do have 1 air force which I'll move to Portsmouth. This is my naval ferry, the Channel Fleet. You can see that we have a good strong fleet with the British, as you might have guessed. And they have some transports which I can use to ferry, eventually troops, but for now I'm just going to get the airplanes over there as well, so we'll ferry them across and have some reconnaissance. There's other fleets, like we have submarines, we have this. Probably I'll just even combine these 2 into 1. And we want to go ahead and blockade, right? We want to go blockade, so probably what we'll do is put the Dover into the Sheerness, and you will just start making your way over to the Atlantic blockade box. We also want to defend the shipping box. So the Germans can also go ahead and move forces into the blockade box. They probably will. Wait, no. They want to move into the shipping box to stop my shipping, and I want to move them into the blockade to stop them from getting troops. Sorry. So they'll move into the shipping box if they want to destroy my shipping. So we'll do that, and we have the Channel Fleet, the battlefield, battles. This one's not active anyway. I think we have another one not active here. Okay, yeah, so we have a few other ships here. The Western Patrol, I'm going to move right into the shipping box to somewhat protect shipping. And we are playing with these options that units in the boxes, the naval boxes, you don't have to worry about resupplying them. It kind of like takes down the tedium. So I'm just going to move the Grand Fleet in there for now. It's also moving them a little bit closer over to the German lands, so we'll still have a good reaction time if any fleets come. There's also Harwich's force, which is a scouting force. He himself is hard to catch. He's a scouting cruiser admiral. So I want to leave him in a scouting role. We're going to move him over here. So we're just going to try to see what the Germans are up to. Are they moving forces around? I mean, they should do that. They'll use the Kiel, the Kaiser Wilhelm channel, whatever it is. Yeah, but we'll put some forces there to see what they're up to, if they're moving forces. I mean, he will disengage if he's engaged, so he'll retreat. Third. Maybe we'll just do defend and retreat, because if he's engaged in a battle which he can win, we want him to take it. But most of the time, I'm assuming that the German fleet will move in mass, so we'll want him to move very quickly. Anyway, that's some of the fleets we want to move in the northern area. Again, I'm going to do a little bit of this off camera just because I don't remember where I want everyone to go. So scout fleet, this is a transport fleet actually. This is a light cruiser fleet, so this could be useful for looking for the Goeben and the Breslau, which, if you recall, were caught in the Mediterranean at the outbreak of war. And I remember I think they tried to put in with Italy, and Italy said, no, we're neutral, so you have to leave. And then that's when they made a break for the Ottoman Empire. We, hopefully, can catch them in their journey, in their attempt to do that. But we also have to watch out that the Austro-Hungarians have a not unreasonable navy themselves. They have a pretty strong navy. So I think the main fleet we're going to move into the blockade box, and we have a British fleet here. Mediterranean fleet for the British. We're also going to have that one move into the Mediterranean box. I will put the French fleet, the superior French fleet, on offensive so that they engage as they see. This little scouting fleet, it looks like we have some shipping. This one I actually am just going to use in a scouting role. Defend if engaged. And let's see if the Austro-Hungarians are moving out from the Aegean at all. Or sorry, the Adriatic Sea. Okay. There's a lot to do, isn't there? Alright, we're back over here now. We're looking at... It's kind of weird the way Twin Wars does it. I mean, it does it as if it's a real board game. It really is a board game that you're playing on a computer rather than a computer game. So the board map has Africa over here that's not actually modeled in. We see that the Germans have a few fleets out. We're going to attempt to engage here. We're going to even move some support fleets out from here, but I'm not going to put them on attack because I want them to only follow this one. We also have a fleet here, which I will move to engage the German raiding force there. And we have another fleet, but I think it's just transports, yeah. In the Atlantic, we're going to move our North American fleet out aggressively to pursue the German fleet there. I think we're superior than it. We only have an armored cruiser, it's one armored cruiser, 4 light cruisers, and torpedo boat squadron. Some transports which we will actually take out. So we don't need those. No, you guys stay in port. There we go. That's what I wanted. They're not moving, right? Okay, good. And you are. Fantastic. Okay, good. So just want to make sure that they weren't moving out. So they're going to stay in Canada. Very good. And we will move out with the North American fleet. See if we can catch the Germans napping. I think we have superior forces here. That's why I do that, but I'm not exactly sure. That's a transport. So we might have some problems with, what's his name? Leto Vorbeck. I guess historically he was quite a leader and held out for, I think, the length of the war. At least that's what my advisors have informed me of. So we'll probably try to take Togo. We'll try to take Cameroon, and then if we can do that, we'll just put pressure on East Africa, but it's going to be up to South Africa to do that. I don't think this is a crucial theater. We just want to make, I think you just don't want the Germans to resist for too long. And eliminating their fleets on the outskirts, I think that's going to help us a lot. As far as the Pacific Fleet goes, we have a weaker fleet, and it's really easy for this one to get caught and destroyed. So I'm going to move that back to Australia. Is that moving into port? I think so. In any case, it's moving. It takes a day to get there, so I assume it's doing the right thing. Let's take the transports out, and actually I think I also want to take the submarine out of this one, just because it will slow us down a little bit. So the Australia squad is going to move aggressively to engage. It'll take a day. I guess it doesn't really compute the fact that these are huge distances. But anyway, the New Zealand squad is going to be on defensive, and it's also going to move out here. And we will combine the Australian and the New Zealand fleet after the first turn. Now, this is Graf Spee, and I guess he's a very competent admiral. So we'll try to avoid tackling this one with our Western Canadian North Pacific squad, which really is not a whole lot, just an armored cruiser. No, it's even a light cruiser. Okay, yeah, we'll definitely not be engaging it until we can combine forces here. We may even wait for reinforcements from the African area. So I think that covers what I want to do with these. So I guess troop recruitment. Okay, time to recruit some troops, right? Actually, the first thing I might want to do is do my decisions here, and those are up here, actually. I'm going to try to influence with my major diplomat, Italy. My minor advisors are going to be Romania, Bulgaria. I don't want Romania on my side. That's not the intent. It's just to prevent them from joining the Central Powers. And the same with Bulgaria. I mean, the Bulgarians, I'm pretty sure that XTRG will be influencing them to join the war as soon as possible. They're very strong. But we'll just do our best to counter that. And we'll also be doing that with Romania. Now, there is a decision I can get the Japanese units to basically join right away. I'm not going to have the engagement points for it. But here's the Anglo-Japanese treaty. I'll use that next turn, probably. By the way, I can give back the Aran and the Agincourt to the Ottoman Empire, but I don't think it's worth it because, one, I like having those two dreadnoughts, and on top of it, I think that the Ottomans are going to slip into Central Power control eventually anyway. So these are all things I want to do, but basically, because of the engagement point cost, I probably won't be able to do any of them. Although this neutrals blockade, I may need to find a way to do. That's certainly like the most important of these three, I think. We want to get the blockade rolling. That's what my focus will be. So let's see what the other stuff is. We have two other diplomats. I think I wanted to influence the Netherlands. And I mean, I can right-click this if it's not the one I want to do. So I may come back and make some adjustments to this. We'll see if that's the case. Last but not least, I don't know. I think I want Arabia or Persia. One of these can be kind of a pain in the butt. I think it's Arabia that we want down here. Whoops. Down here. Arabia, we have... oh, that's Yemen. Persia, is it modeled here? Okay, maybe it's modeled here. There's Afghanistan, there's Persia. Okay, there it is. So Persia over here. I think Persia's the one. You want to have a threat to keep the Ottoman Empire from just being able to completely abandon the southern front. You don't want the Ottomans to push into Egypt either. So actually, to that point, we'll be in our recruitment. I'm going to ask for just infantry for the moment. And we can get an Indian division, which I will take, in Port Said to protect the Suez Canal. That might be a little early, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm also going to get, now going to French forces. I want a colonial division here to just start recruiting, because I believe I have a group which is, yeah, the 24 Corps is actually ready to deploy. It can move out. But I'm not going to chance the transports being caught by the Breslau and Goeben until I know what XTRG is going to do with those. And it doesn't matter. I might as well just, these forces aren't, it's better for these forces to arrive like 1 turn or 2 turns late, in my opinion, than to be sunk on the way, even though it's a pretty low chance it would happen. So I'm going to wait, and I'm going to get a French colonial division here. That will basically recruit, and in 4 turns, I guess, when that's done, that's when I'll ferry that division along with the rest of the corps that's already there. I'll ferry them up to the mainland. Do they call it the mainland in French? I mean, that's how you would say it in America, the United States. I mean, the main body is the mainland, and Hawaii is not part of the mainland, for example. Anyway, we also want to recruit some troops in general. So you can see this is where the engagement points situation gets a little tricky, because I do want to do munitions factories. And I'm going to get one in Orleans, which is a little bit south. Should be protected. If we lose France and we lose Orleans, we're dead anyway, right? And that's all the engagement points used up, so I can't do the other one yet. And I think it's probably worth to do that first. We'll do the blockade starting next turn. I think with the whole Grand Fleet there and with the French fleet going in there, that we can wait 1 turn on beginning to do a double roll for the blockade. So that's done. We don't need that. We don't even have super heavy artillery. Oh, state funds, yeah, and we do want to spend money for state funds. I don't understand the mechanic here, but I guess it's just use the state funds whenever you can. That's what I've seen people do, so that's what I'll continue to do myself, not really understanding why I'm doing that. I'm not supposed to unlock fort guns as France, even though we need artillery. I don't remember the reasons why, but the engagement point, national morale, 200 victory points. I mean, the engagement points and the national morale mean a lot more, in my opinion, than the 200 victory points. Eventually, the game does come down to victory points, right? But I care less about victory points than I should. I'm more about how does the, like, I'm going to look at the war and however it ends, even if we lose in victory points, if we end up taking a lot of German territory and it's obvious we're going to win it at the end, I'm still going to call that a victory in my own eyes. I mean, if we last even until 1915, I should probably call that a victory, right? Because XTRG is really a daunting opponent. Okay, wow, this has been like a blitz of a lot of stuff, but come on, Tortuga, keep it together just a little bit longer. We're going to recruit some normal infantry divisions. I think I'm going to put these also in Orleans. I can put 2 there. We don't have enough money for another one. Yeah, we're down to 10 money, which is basically not enough to do anything else. So recruitment side of things, we are now done. What is left? I think maybe nothing. Okay, so I'll do one final cut here, and I'll bring up the war plan as I'm going to do it, which means that there may be some discrepancies, some differences between what you see here, but I'll try to address the ones I remember on camera. Okay, so back in a sec. Okay, this is it. This is the final setup. Maybe. I have, this game drives me nuts. There's just a number of options. So I decided it was Persia and not Arabia. Just a quick correction there. I've somewhat decided to orient a few more of my fleets from, there was also this, the French Channel Fleet, if I can select them. So I've sent them back to the Mediterranean. So the French forces will kind of merge and take over the Mediterranean, which is their historical role. And the British are hopefully going to be sufficient to hold in the Atlantic. I missed, by the way, the battlecruiser fleet, which we have now put up into the blockade box as well. I did send a group of submarines down. They're also supposed to be going to the box. So, I mean, we have a lot of forces merging here. Some submarines, the French Channel Fleet, the French Mediterranean Fleet, and then obviously the forces from Malta, the British fleet. They're also, they're part of the reason why they're moving through the Malta Channel here is to see if we can catch the Goeben and the Breslau, but even if that doesn't work, we should be okay. Yeah, we'll be kind of scouting to see if the Austro-Hungarians leave the sea province. And you know what? I think I'll even go here because they're not likely to move. They're not likely to move through the middle exactly. They'll probably move to the sides. And I think you have vision in on the provinces around you, so we should be able to see what happens if I move them there. The shipping box itself, not very well protected. We will have to think about what to do about that. I don't know what we'll do about that. We may end up kind of diverting part of the French fleet. Like maybe the Mediterranean fleet will just move. It is stronger than the Austro-Hungarian one, not by too much, but by enough, I think. It may move over to protect our shipping box. I don't know. These are the kind of questions we'll solve in the future. Now, as far as the front lines goes, I think, by the way, that all the moves I was going to make as far as recruiting and everything else are identical. I think that I got... I don't know. Okay, this is 55. It costs 50 money, but this was... Okay, they're the same. 1060, 1060. So I think I got this one, which I can cancel maybe. No, that's sorry. No, this is who I started to recruit. I think I can just delete that, and unit successfully canceled. So it looks like if you can get this one, I don't know what the FL stands for unless it's the French Legionnaires. Versus the North Africa, but if I can get the Legionnaires at 50, 28, 10, 60, this is 50, 28, 10, 60, looking at the money conscripts right at the tooltip here. It doesn't seem like for no conceivable negative, I can get the French Legionnaires for nothing, so let's do that instead. Let's order those guys, and I'll probably even get another one of those. We don't have the money to do it yet, but eventually. I mean, it doesn't, I don't know why I would have chosen these guys first when I get the Legionnaires, and we want the best troops we can as fast as possible. You know, the whole snowball effect. Better to put your best foot forward. Okay, now I think that's certainly everything for recruitment. We move back. I did decide to move the one corps we have available from Saint Michael to Nancy, and that's gonna be that'll have to be enough to close this gap. I don't think that these leaders are active for the Germans. I'm not sure, but I don't think they are. Yeah, I think we're set. First turn is done. There's probably, like I said, little minor things that I've done. I think there was a submarine group I moved. I think the Channel Fleet is actually going to stay here because they will be transporting. They will actually be transporting people in the Channel. Somewhere there was some submarines. They're lost to me now. It's Harwich. But anyways, there's some submarines and they're moving. Oh, here they are. They're moving to the blockade as well. So we'll have plenty of forces in the blockade. Shouldn't have any problems there. And I think that concludes it. So I apologize if I didn't show something on camera, which I also have done. But I think I covered everything. More or less the plan is to push very gingerly forward, wait for leaders to activate. I'm moving I might change this off camera. I'm still debating whether or not to move this force to Dinant, which is where he was going, versus Guise. And I moved him to Guise as a more conservative measure to try to prevent, this is cavalry, from moving in and cutting off my own supply lines. Although I guess our supply won't be too impacted by that. We have like a backup rail line here. But I don't want the cavalry to get behind my lines, and I'm a little bit afraid that... Well, I don't think we'll really be able to stop them, considering we're not going to be on offensive, but I'll try to do my best anyway. Okay, so that's it. This is turn one. So this is basically the first episode in the series. So if you wouldn't mind pressing the like button, I don't know if this will actually be the first episode of a playlist. It probably will, and I may actually leave it as the first episode for a while, and then come, maybe a month or two down the road, I'll add the episode 0 to the playlist eventually. But I want this to be the primary video. So if you wouldn't mind leaving or pressing the like button just for the first video, just to increase popularity. I'm pretty sure that it's not unnecessary. If you're looking for To End All Wars content, I'm pretty sure this series is going to be like, well, I mean, if not from my perspective, but at least from like historical gamers' perspective, probably XTRG's series will be really popular as well. So, yeah, and actually, I think that because Agrippa is working with Slytherin now, we might even get a little press from them, since this is, I think, going to be a very interesting series. Yeah, and I'm actually feeling a little bit more comfortable, not just with the idea of defeat, but at least the way I will be defeated. I feel a little bit more confident than I did even like a month ago before I started. So, and a lot of thanks goes to von Moltke for that. So, not the German leader, but the person who is assisting me from my Discord. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and until the next episode. By the way, sorry it was delayed. This is the last part of the video, so I already know that this is like, XTRG has already released his turn supposedly, and I really want to get it out so that there's no claims of foul play, but but I haven't done anything aggressively enough to counter a move of his anyways, so I guess it's, even if I had watched his video, I obviously didn't do anything to counter what he's doing, which, I mean, this is just, that probably says something that I'm not being aggressive enough with my forces. But okay, enough, let's get this video out, and until the next episode, take care.